Come see if I can
Are
figure
you in
that out.
control of it or is somebody else doing it?
No, it's me, but I don't know.
I feel like they took it off of the full screen. Got the picture on it.
Says it's being recorded, which is great, but
Yeah, right.
I like to be able to deal with it.
Is that being fed off of this laptop?
I mean, you might have to tell.
Yeah, where is that coming from?
Holland, I think.
Okay, well, yes, Holland's gonna have to say, got it.
Maybe.
Yes.
You guys, ooh, I'm already dizzy.
There you go.
And then probably view full screen on the upper left-hand corner.
Upper here. Where would you see that?
View third end to the right.
Yeah.
There you
There
go.
you go.
That was awesome. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay. Okay, so,
And we're back.
and we're back, yes. Okay, so, in terms of, trying to figure out where the leads are coming from, I want to talk real quick about farms. I have been really bad about not doing what I've been taught. Been really bad at it. Because I never really believed in farming. I'm like, that's gonna cost too much money and time and it never works and I don't want to deal with it. You have to have faith in whatever you're gonna do. Whatever lead generation practice you're gonna do, you have to have faith in it. If you don't have faith in it, don't do it. But sometimes we don't have faith in something because we don't understand it. So there was this guy, kid, whatever, much younger gentleman than I am. And he came and he decided he was gonna farm. So he thought it out. So I want you guys to think about this for yourselves, okay? He thought about it, he says, where is something that's local to me, so I don't have to drive far away, and that I'll know everything that's around it so I can speak to that when I go to the door. I'm gonna get a clipboard of every single homeowner in this whole gigantic complex, and I'm gonna choose a complex that's not gated that I can walk right up to the door. He thought that out. That was amazing, right? Because that's half the battle right there. Is like, I found something I'm gonna focus on, and then I'm gonna be able to get to the door, because it's really important. And I think even certain neighborhoods, you'll find every single door says, no soliciting, no soliciting. You're like, okay, I'm not gonna go to the door, right? So when we were out door knocking, we saw so many posts. It was like, okay.
Wait, the no soliciting thing, is that property specific or is it like neighborhood protected?
It's just the individual, yeah, that
Individual.
either decided, whatever. So, and maybe you'd still knock, but I didn't push my luck, so we didn't do that today. So, or that when we did that, so, but this guy that I'm talking about that did this farm, I know he didn't have a lot of money to start out with, right? But he did every single thing right, like every single thing, from trying to figure that out, got his clipboard, got his names, and decided, okay, this is how many doors I'm gonna knock per day or whatever. So this goes back to lead generation and lead follow-up. You guys have got to come up with a goal for the amount of leads you want to get every week. Because if you know you're going to convert 2 to 3 people out of 100, you say, my goal is to come up with 100 new leads a month. How are you going to get that? And then how are you going to break it down into bite-sized pieces to where you're not freaked out because it's 100? So you've got to do the math. If we're going to use 100, there's 4 weeks in a month, you're doing 25 leads a week. Okay, that's how to break that down. And then break it down further, 25 leads divided by 5 a day, right? And that becomes a lot more doable than just saying, oh my God, I have to do 100, how am I ever going to do that? So you've got to come up with that kind of a scenario. And it doesn't have to be 100, right? If we know that we're going to do 2 to 3 out of 100, you could do 50 and be really, really diligent and following up so well that you convert that 1, potentially 2, maybe. So just think of it, the more leads you have, the more chance you have for conversion, right?
When you go door knocking, do you go as a squadron, or are you a group of people, or is it just solo dolo, you know?
It depends. I had some experiences with door knocking, and Rachel and I just went together. I think it's better to not go by yourself because you don't feel so self-conscious.
Yeah,
Some people might just not feel self-conscious at all, but that's not me. So I've done it, and I've actually, the 2 times that I door knocked in my whole 21 years, both times I found an off-market property. We door knocked for 3 hours, and we found 1 off-market property in Los Altos in Long Beach, where there's hardly any turnover. And then I had another client that wanted to be in a specific gated community and door knocked for an hour and a half and found somebody that was going to sell, showed it to her that night, wrote it up and closed it. Where we just kept getting outbid over and over and over again. So I have really good results with that. Al over here, this guy, he's got a great team, and their whole core of their business is based on door knocking, the whole business. So going back to this kid with this farm, he was an animal. He was relentless. He had his clipboard. He had all of his names. I don't know how many places there are over there, but I know there's gotta be at least 350. I used to live there. And what he did was he would go to the door, and if they didn't answer, he'd leave something. And plus he was doing a mailing, so it was an alternating visit, mailer. But he kept going back to the doors where they didn't answer until they answered. And that's the same thing as phone follow-up. It's exactly the same thing as follow-up. He never stopped going back to the door. So eventually, I'm not telling you it happened overnight, because it didn't. And that's what farming is, it's cultivating, it's over time. But eventually, everybody there knew him because he didn't stop going back until he made contact. And if he didn't get their interest or anything, and maybe they told him never to come back again, he noted that, and he knew not to deal with those people. So he could kind of erase that 10% or 20% and then focus on the rest. So it's an exercise that takes work, but then there's benefits. And now I watch his production. He was one of the agents that I recruited to my market center in Long Beach. I watch him, and every time I see a new listing, for the most part, 90% of his listings come from that community. He's like the known agent in that community. Do other people get listings in there? Absolutely, because it's a big community, but he gets a high percentage of those listings.
Only 350 homes?
They're townhouses, yeah. And, you know, I think that was a really smart thing for him to do. I mean, I feel like, but you have to be all in. Whatever you're gonna do, whatever method you're gonna use, you just gotta be 100% in.
What would you recommend? How would we choose a farm?
You would get with your title rep, you need to sit down with them, and you need to talk to them about finding a high turnover rate somewhere. Because the higher the turnover ratio is, the more likely you're going to convert business if you're consistently farming it. So that's going to be really important, because we can pick out farms all the time, and if nobody ever moves unless they die kind of thing, then that's not really where you want to focus. You want to focus in a high turnover area where you really have an opportunity. Otherwise, you might be spinning your wheels. So the higher that return is, you know, that ratio is, the better off you're going to be. You have a title rep you're already working with?
In Orange County, but I think she can help me there.
Okay. Yeah, I would connect with that person. You know, our title person too. You know, they have so many apps, and my daughter has to teach me about it.
So there's this app from WRT, Western Resource Title,
Mhm.
and you click on it and it shows you the turnover. But how do you know that other agents are not in there, or like, I mean, they're in
They
there,
probably
but
are.
You don't know, but I will tell
it
you
doesn't really
this.
matter.
I will tell you this.
They're not doing the same thing.
Again, if you're not all in and you're not going to just work it to death, you're not going to be successful. So you can't worry about what other people are doing, because most of the time they're not going to be working that hard on it. They're going to go, okay, this is my farm. I'm going to send it something to me, right? We were door knocking the 3 hours that we did. And there was a guy, he's a big agent at that office I used to manage. And there were notepads on every doorstep that we went to. Notepads and air freshener was stuck in the notepad. But you know what they had done? Because I already know. They had hired a runner to go to that neighborhood and drop those. There was no face-to-face interaction.
Did you remove
Nope,
them?
nope. But what did we do different? We didn't hire a runner. We were personally there. We knocked on every door and everyone was very nice. There wasn't one person that was mean to us, which was great. You know, some people just said, hey, we're never, ever leaving. But we got to one place and when we went up to the door, the guy said, we're never moving. This is our forever home. But you see that trailer down there? And I said, yeah, well, they're gonna sell that house. And we walked over and sure enough, they were gonna sell that house and it's not on the market yet.
What is your introduction conversation when you knock on a door and somebody opens?
Well, you gotta figure out what you're going there for. So, you know, I go there, you know, specifically to find a property for someone. So, you know, when I was going with Rachel, we had a letter about the family with some details.
Okay.
Like they have a 6-year-old, they want to be in the Los Altos School District. They're both in really good jobs and have been for over a decade. They have, you know, this much money down. These are their FICO scores. And by the way, here's their fully underwritten approval from the lender. And I just, you know, removed their address and the last names and had those to give out. And I said, you can call the lender on this letter. This is legitimate. This is a real buyer. I'm not just trying to get listings. I mean, if you want to list with me, that'd be great. Haha, right? But seriously, if you want to. But I'm here trying to find my client home that isn't on the market right now. And people were very receptive and sorry I can't help you, or maybe, you know, 2 years from now, or they got on the road there, you know, with the trailer. So, but what just happened, and this gets lost on people, guess what just happened when we went to those doors and we talked to those people? We just had accidental consultations. We had face-to-face interaction with these people that never saw us before. And if we go back, I remember you, weren't you here last month? Yeah, I was, that's me. And by the second time, and then the third time, by the, you know, the longer you go, finally they're like, you're their friend. And they're expecting your visit. And if you're going to go, because you don't have a buyer and you just want to go with a market update, this is how many homes have sold in your neighborhood. This is how much price per square foot on average is right now. These are what the interest rates are doing, and this is what the market is doing right now. The market's getting ready to shift. If you've been thinking about selling, now is the time, because you know we're going to have less of a demand. We're going to see more inventory, and if anybody's checking the MLS, I checked it yesterday. This was the first time in a very long time there were 5 pages of new listings. Wow. What does that say? More inventory. What happens after that inventory balances out, the demand is going to diminish, and it already has because of the interest rate. So if people want to sell, they better hurry up and do it, because all this, you know, remove appraisal contingency, remove loan contingency, buy my kid dinner for the next 12 months, give me your left arm stuff isn't going to keep happening. It's like, you know, it's going to become more of a regular market where the real way that things are supposed to be negotiated comes back into play, and buyers don't have to give up every single thing just to get the property. So, and sellers will learn the hard way because they have unrealistic expectations, because this has gone on way too long. So they just think, oh yeah, we got money, we got equity, we got the house, we're gonna just take these buyers to the cleaners. It always shifts. Always shifts. So I think people are starting to catch on to that, and that's why we're seeing an influx of inventory, because they realize, oh crap, I better not wait anymore. And the more people think that, the more inventory we're going to see. And it's good, because we still need a lot more to have it go on par with demand. It's not there. It's not quite there. So it could take a little while, but you can see we're going that way. So be able to start talking to a seller now that doesn't want to sell for 3 months or whatever, and educate them on what's happening right now and then what's going to be happening. will be helpful because it might push them off the fence. They might go, well, I might need to do this sooner than I thought, right? Or, oh, well, then I guess I better just plan on staying here for the next 10 years and then you don't have to talk to them. So, but the point is of all of that is you've got to think about how you can get in front of people as much as possible. If you are talking to somebody on the phone, what emotional connection do they have to you? If it's never met you and they've never heard of you before, and you call them. Yeah, if that, right? And how many other people call? Let's say you're calling expireds or withdrawn or canceled people. And you call them like every other agent that's working expired listings. What are you gonna mean to them? So how are you gonna stand out and be different? If you're gonna just do phone work. Any ideas? None? Okay, so let's just say you're the prospect and I'm the agent. If I try to call you and you don't answer me, and I hang up the phone and I don't leave you a voicemail, but it's a textable number, and I send you an audio text with my voice actually talking to you, and you click the button and you know you're hearing me talk to you. That's a little bit more bridging the gap, right? Like you're like a real person, okay? But they still don't know you. So what would be better than that? What would be better than the audio text? If you couldn't get a hold of them on the phone, they didn't pick up.
Video.
What message? Video text message. Now, you really only have, I learned, 13 seconds to record a message. But according to my daughter, we have an iPhone song. So, but on my Android, it's 13 seconds. So it's quick. Hi, Joe. This is Lady Rich Soda with Keller Williams. I'm just trying to catch up with you. When's a great time to reach you? Then that's a face-to-face interaction, whether they realize it or not. They saw you. You're talking to them. It wasn't a slide broadcast that went out to 100 people. It was just for them, from you, who they didn't know, but now they kind of feel like they do know because they saw you and you're talking to them. You got to be sneaky, I think is the point. You got to be sneaky, you got to be different. So are you doing that? Are you doing video texts?
No,
You are. Okay. It's super easy. You just take a video and then you just insert the video into the chat box for the text.
Oh,
Yeah, it's super easy, but it's just, something you can do. There's also another service, of course, when you're new and stuff and you're not making money, you don't want to spend money. I get that, but there is a service called BombBomb, and BombBomb helps produce videos for you. And they give you this little like whiteboard that's big where you're saying, "Hi, Joe," and you're holding it up and you're kind of going like this, like the people at the new homes with the sign, right? "Hi, Joe." And so the person sees it in their email. When they open the email, they see you and they see you doing this with their name on it. So they click on it. It's a way to get it to be opened. Instead of you just going to spam or whatever. Oh, what is that? And then they listen to you talk to them. And it's to them, it's like personal to them. I learned in all of the sales training I've had with being in new homes and then also with running market centers, people love to hear their own name. You ever heard that before? When you're talking to people, you don't want to use it overly because then it sounds really scripted and lame. But if you say their names a couple of times during the conversation, they feel like you know them. They're like embedded commands, sort of, right? Ooh, keep using my name like you really know me, and not like weird, like talk to them like a friend. "Hi, Joe, how are you? What's been going on?" Right? "Hi, Joe, really want to sell you a house." Right? Like, you have to learn how to be their friend. You have to learn how to get information out of them, and then you need to use that information to get more information. So that's your goal. So I'm really not using this. I'm really excited. But conversion is something that I'm really strong in, and so that's why I'm making these suggestions to you, because you need to find a way to set yourself apart. And even from the very way back machine, when I first came to San Pedro and started doing open houses for other agents, certainly didn't have my own. I was like, what can I do that would be different? So the first thing I did was I made a relationship with the house that I was sitting for the open. Does that sound weird? I made a relationship with the house. What I did was, and new homes taught me this, you feature sell a house. You find 3 features about the house that you like that you could sell to somebody who's coming to New York. And all of a sudden, they're seeing things that they probably wouldn't have seen. Because they're like, oh, it has 3 bedrooms. Oh, it has 2 bathrooms. Oh, okay, the garage is in the back off the alley. But you're gonna point out 3 things that they may not have paid attention to. And that's gonna make them think you know what you're talking about. So you need to build a relationship with the house. So that's one of the things I did. But then the other thing, and this, everybody's different, you don't have to do exactly what I did, but I'm telling you that it worked. I went and I bought the pre-cut cookie dough. I got the seller's permission, and I bought my cookie sheet and a platter and little water bottles, and I baked cookies in the house. And the house smelled like cookies. And if it was rainy or cold weather and there's a fireplace, I asked if we could use the fireplace. Lit candles in the house, like in the bathroom, in the kitchen, so that it's a nice smell, or it's just warm and cozy, feels like home. And then you got some information about the house you want to share with them that they might have not have known. And then you bring collateral, closed sales, pending sales, active sales, right, in the last 90 days, because that's what appraisers look at. And you look at average price per square foot, and you study the houses so that you can say, this house sold for this much per square foot because it was a real fixer, but you can see this one sold for a lot more because it was really nice, and the one we're standing in right now is really nice. It's down the higher end of the price per square foot. All that kind of stuff is super, super important when you're trying to convince somebody that they should work with you, because you have to add value. You have to come up with information that they don't already have on their own by going on Redfin or Zillow or wherever else they're going to go. You have to sound like the area expert. That's why you pick a part, whatever, whether it's a certain section of the town that you live in, or it's a complex or whatever it is, that you can really be knowledgeable about that. The schools, the hospitals, the parks, the coffee houses, everything. Whatever that might be important to somebody, right? Freeway access.
And those specs sound more important to a buyer than a seller per se, correct?
Mm-hmm. Well, they are, but they aren't. Because when I was doing all that, as I said, I was new to the area. I wasn't new to real estate. I'd already been a realtor for 8 years before I got here. But I didn't have any of my own listings. And so I was holding opens for other agents, and this one agent wasn't really that great at doing their job. And the seller watched me make a relationship with the house and come up with all that collateral and do all those things and try to sell their home. They were in the house with me sometimes and watched. And they ended up firing that agent and hiring me, and I sold that house. So not exactly. So that brings me to my next point. Our business is relationships. That's what business we're in. We're in the relationship business. And when it comes to lead conversion, it's the relationship that you have with people that helps you to convert your business. So I have a lot of friends that are very dear friends that started out as clients. And our job is to build relationship and rapport with our prospects so that they can become our clients. And then they can become our past clients, right? That maybe repeat and refer to us. So that has to be our focus. And if you're always thinking relationship and you're always thinking about doing whatever you can for them, going above and beyond for them, if they're paying attention, they'll notice that you're not the same as everyone else.
Hmm.
And then they'll want to do the business with you. And so it's because of that kind of thing that the conversion for me has been so high. Because I care about what's important to them, whether it's, you know, their daughter's in ballet, or their son is playing football, or they're doing an Ironman, or whatever, you know, they're doing a golf championship. I don't know. Everybody's got something that's important to them. And it's our job to figure out what that is, and, you know, how we can let them know that we truly care. And it can't be scripted. It has to be real, because people know the difference between you just trying to get a sale and you actually really caring. And that's a part, we are supposed to take care of people. We have a fiduciary responsibility to whoever uses us. So we're supposed to be taking care of them because we know the process and they don't. And so we need to show them that that's why we're here. I just talked to a gal on my way in today. She's gonna be ready in about 3 months. And we were talking about how I'm not gonna pressure her, because I know they're not ready right now. I said, we just need to start the foundation and the framework for what we're trying to find, so that we can kind of pare down, so that when you are really ready, we know where to go, we know what to do, right? And I said, and the other thing is, I'm not a salesperson. That's what I would say. I'm not a salesperson. I am someone that takes you through a process and negotiates on your behalf and helps you all the way to the end. The house sells itself. If they're in the market for a house, they're gonna walk in the door, they're gonna know if that's the house they want to buy, right? We don't have to do a hard sale. Why? Because at the end, I want them to still like me. I want them to like me when we're done, and not be like, I can't believe you made me buy this house, I didn't want it. I don't like this area, I'm so mad, or whatever, right? And that happens. You know, you gotta have patience with people. Some buyers convert very quickly and others take a long time. I had a client that took 2.5 years, but they still bought, yes.
I would add to this one as well, the fourth one.
Mhm.
I figured that, I'm not that many doors, but I figured when I do knock, it's nice to just ask them for their contact information, and like ask for their business with the question, do you mind if we keep in touch until you were to buy or sell? And it's like rude to say no, so they would always give it to you. Well, that's how it feels like when you do ask them, do you mind if we keep in touch?
Mhm.
And they just give you their contact information.
Maybe, sometimes, but I mean, you know, I will say that that's true, that, you know, people might feel bad if they don't say yes to you. And then they might not.
Yeah.
Right, well, that happens too, but
Yeah.
just overall, they usually do.
Well, I think that the goal is to figure out how many leads do you need to generate to be able to convert a person that you talk to your client. And once you have the client, how many appointments are you gonna have to go on and all of that to close and yada, yada, right? Because you gotta know how much money you wanna make. So then you gotta figure out how many contacts do I have to make and how many appointments do I have to go on to be able to convert and close to get to that place that I'm trying to get to. So you really need to start focusing on that, because that's gonna help you to understand your activities and how much activities you're gonna have to do, right? Because it's not too plentiful at the moment. So you actually have to really work for it now. What were you gonna say?
I was just thinking, I mean, I know that we've been kind of talking about title company apps. And I think like one of the things, even now, when you have an open house, getting people to sign in is not always easy. It seems like, you know, if they do it, is the information even accurate? And so one of the things that they taught me to do was to use one of their apps, and basically it makes kind of a report of, if this is the purchase price of the home, this is what, you know, the average rate is right now for this price point or whatever it is. And it'll give them like the financial information, but it'll also create a report for that area. So like walk score, what's around there, where the school districts is, all that good stuff.
Right.
And it kind of lumps it into one report, and you can actually say like, hey, you know, I know this is some really great information we talked about today. I can actually send this over to you on your mobile device, so it's paperless, you won't have to take things around, I know that everybody's really kind of running away from that. So I
You
think
don't
that
wanna
would be
kill
a good
trees,
way.
okay?
Well, yeah, and then it's just another way, like she's saying, keep in touch, right? Okay,
Mhm.
that's a great way to get some contact information, so even if you're door knocking, you could probably still generate something like that, so all you have to do is quickly type in the address of the home.
Right.
Right, which you already have, so if you're gonna be doing that, you can just already create that ahead of time, and it'll even personalize it with your information most of the time with their marketing, so.
Right.
That would be a good thing, because then it's not just, hey, give me your information, it's like, here, let me share this information with you.
Right, because you need, that's the thing, is that you have to have something of value to offer people. And it's not, just to gather contact information, so I think that that's an excellent point. To have that, and I haven't been really good about using all of that. But I think it's really beneficial, and one of the things that's really beneficial is True People Search. Who's heard of that before? Have you heard of that, truepeoplesearch.com?
True People Search.
Yeah, go on there, go on truepeoplesearch.com, put in your own name. And see what happens. Mhm. Yeah, and everything from
Do you
your,
know where they get that information from?
I don't, but I know that me personally, every person I'm related to is a clickable link.
Right, wow.
My phone numbers, my email addresses, every place I've ever lived. Is it always accurate? No. But a lot of times it is. A lot of times it is.
Does it have email addresses?
Yeah, and a lot of times they're not accurate. And what I would do is I would play off of my title rep, and I would get information from them, and I would get information from there, and I would look to see if there's something they're giving you that wasn't on True People Search or vice versa. So, I mean, when we're talking about trying to do higher numbers, sometimes it's hard to just do that much door knocking. Right? It's a lot of door knocking, that's a lot of doors. So, and then you gotta figure out what's the best day and time to go too. So let's talk about phone follow-up. What about that on the best day and time or whatever to do that? What do you guys think about that?
Yesterday, speaking of that, I started calling about 3 days ago. And the first 2 days, I was calling in the early afternoon between 3 and 6. And I was getting a lot of disconnects, voicemails. But then yesterday, we had red days, so I started my calling a little later, about 5 o'clock.
Mhm.
And I went to 7.
Mhm.
And I got a lot of people.
That is exactly what I have told people that have been on my team in the
Wow.
past. I used to love to go to the office at 5 p.m. because why? Everybody's leaving. And the office is quiet and you're in there, right? And then you start making your calls because that's right when people are getting off work. So between the hours, I would say of 5 and 7 and 7:30 p.m. Yeah, I would do that. And it's hard to get a hold of people on Saturdays because people are doing stuff that they can't do when they're at work. But if they're off work and they're serious at all about this, and you call during that time, that's the right time to call. I mean, not everybody has a 9-to-5 job, but a lot of people work standard day hours. A lot of people do. And if they don't, like say my fiance, for instance, is a longshoreman. So, he works nights, but he can still answer his phone during those hours, even though he's there. He could still, if he was really wanting to buy a house, right? So I think you've got to try to think it through, just like the farm I was talking about, where you really think it through. You got to really think it through. Who am I trying to reach, and when's going to be good to reach them? And how consistent do I need to be until I do get a hold of whoever I'm trying to get a hold of? So that's going to become really super important. And also having a pipeline and then keeping the pipeline is going to become very important too. However you're going to do your contact management system. I don't know if you're going to use Command or how you're going to do this, but here's another example. I always use life examples because I find it's more helpful. I was showing property to this guy and he wasn't quite ready. They had some credit issues And they couldn't do it. And so he says, I think a year. I'll put it in my calendar. And then when the year came, I called him and he goes, whoa, I can't believe you're calling me. And I'm like, why? And he goes, because we're just getting ready. We're ready now.
Wow.
Right? And he's like, this is so crazy. And within, I think 2 or 3 weeks, I had them in escrow on the house that they bought. And that's with me remembering that I had to follow up with them for 1 whole year that I waited, right? And I always do a little bit before. If they say a year, shave a month off or 2, right? Go roll it back a little bit. And because then you reintroduce yourself to them and they may not be ready yet, but they're just about to get ready. And then you're in their head, like you just said, right? You come, oh, I remember you, yeah, we talked, yeah, how's things, what's going on? So that really works. Yes.
Can I just add something?
Yeah.
Sorry if I'm jumping the gun here, but it's really important to have a good system in your CRM for following up. And that's something that I'm really having difficulties with, is organizing everybody in a way that I can go back and see who I've contacted recently, and then setting dates to follow up and having good notes. Super important, because you don't remember anything really. that
Right,
you
exactly.
last seen somebody.
But don't you think that a CRM is a personal?
It is, it's different for everyone.
It's kind of like if someone says, well, I want you to use command. Well, I may not jive with command. I mean, it just may not be my thing. And Excel is not my thing, so
Me either.
I have to look for it.
Yeah, no, that's really true, because, for me, I think I have multiple, we defer to, Boomtown, which is our website provider and also a contact management system and our lead gen as well. And there's a great way to follow up, and they give you training. I mean, if you're doing something with Zillow, the same thing, they give you the training to do all of what their site allows you to do for contact management. So I think that, there's lots of good things out there, and it has to be the thing you like, where you feel like it's super user friendly.
So with that person that asked you to reach out a year from now, did you follow up in any other way? Did you send them an email or a postcard?
Yeah, so there's a whole bunch of different ways that I stay in touch with people. Like right now, I'm using a platform called Viral Marketing, where I have a video that goes out to my entire database twice a month. So I'm staying in touch with people in that way, and I'm giving them market updates and things like that. Like for instance, hey, the interest rate just went up, or, those kinds of things. So you're able to stay connected, but you're not calling them all the time because they already told you it's going to be a year, because you don't want to keep doing that. So, yeah. You're going to say something back there. Okay. Oh, great. The pressure's on.
What are you gonna say?
So, anyway, I think that just trying to figure out too, your target, who are you trying to do business with? Who do you want to do business with? What price points do you want to service? What area do you want to service? And then, as much as people don't think this is important, every day of the week, there's a broker caravan in a different area. To know the market, truly, you should be going on broker caravan. Because just like everyone else, you can look at the MLS and you can look at pictures on the MLS, but if you've physically been to the house and then you start talking to someone and they start describing what they want, and you're like, I was there, 123 Main Street, you gotta meet me there, when can you come? Because you already know, because you've been there. You know what the neighborhood looks like, you know the true size of the backyard, you know if the rooms are big or small, you know if it's open concept, you know, because you were there. So if you go to broker's tour, you learn things, and then you become much more valuable than somebody that can pull it up on the MLS. That's as good as going on Redfin. Anybody can do that, right? You have to know more than the public knows. That's going to be really beneficial in being able to convert at a higher level too, because the more you know. And also when we have our sales meetings on Wednesdays, Sometimes we do a property share, right, when we're talking about new listings that are coming on the market. You know more than the public does because the thing's not even on the market yet, you were talking about it in here. Oh, we've got this duplex coming up, da 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 da. Now you know something someone else doesn't know, and you might have a buyer that's already looking for that, and now you can call them and be like, hey, somebody in my office is listing this property, it's not on the market yet, but I wanna hurry up and tell you about it so we can get in there ASAP. You have to constantly looking at things that you can do that are gonna be different than what other people are doing. And also, here's another thought, if you want listings. If you're looking at an area, so let's say you're farming an area or you're wanting to be in a certain area and something comes on the market, can you market to that community or to that neighborhood, even though it's not your listing? Of course you can. Or if something just sells there, can't you just step in and be like, yeah, so that house down the street just sold for $525 and it was $428 a square foot, and da 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 da, and start talking to people and start the conversation like that. I get really confused about when buyers tell me, I want to be north of the 605 and east of the. I hate when people do that to me. I'm like, no, don't do that to me. But when you, like, if you're looking at an area, a town, like an MLS area, sometimes it will fall on the other side of the freeway where they want to be. And if you don't know, then you don't know. So you have to know. You have to know where the house is in proximity to what they're telling you that they want, so that you're better than Zillow and Redfin and the other person they met, get the open house or whatever. So the critical piece of information, I think, is who is my target audience? What are my target numbers? How many contacts do I have to make in a week? How many appointments do I need to get to my goal by the end of the year? And then how am I going to go about it? Where's the lead gen going to come from? Because you shouldn't use everything because that's just totally overwhelming. You should have one or two sources for lead gen, and that should be what you're using, that you can focus on and be consistent with. And then, try to build something from that. So as I was saying about the gentleman earlier that did the farm and how he did it right, it's just like him buying his first property. I didn't do this. I should know better because I'm on my 8th or 9th house. I can't remember. He bought a duplex, first purchase, FHA. It's the smartest thing a person can do. They buy a duplex, one of the units is open, they go in there, somebody else is helping them make their mortgage payment, and after a year, they can move out, put a tenant in there, and they can go buy something else, and now they own 2 doors plus a primary residence, and keep it that. It's like the things that people tell us to do, the reason why they're telling us is because they've already done it. And because they know it's what works or it's what the best thing is to do. And I'm not going to do that. I don't want to be a landlord. Well, be a landlord for a year and then turn it over to a property management company. and then have the 3 doors that you own in a year or 18 months or whatever. That's an incredible wealth building opportunity for someone. 3.5% down and you own a duplex. Not an ADU, a duplex with 2 APN numbers, real with their own separate utilities and everything. Someday we're going to get old. Some of us are already there, and we need to be thinking about our retirement. Are we going to be selling real estate when we're 80? Right. So all of the things that you hear people that had great success do. Pick a couple things that you think are really cool or that really gel with you and go after that. And remember that there's always enough business to go around because the rule of thumb is 80% of the business is done by 20% of the agents. And that's true. And if you just look at our office stats, you look at our top, 20%, that's where all deals are coming from. is the top 20% of the agents in the office, but then if it's every office is like that, that's how it is. And if anybody's doing any amount of business, you're gonna run into the same people over and over again, the same listing agents, the same buyer's agents, over and over and over again. And while you're making relationships with your clients or hope to be clients, you need to be making relationships with other agents. They need to know who you are. And that's another reason why going on brokerage tour is so important. Because you keep going and they see you, right? Yeah, I'll take one of your sandwiches and here's my business card. Hey, how you doing? So great. You got another listing. This is a great opportunity, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And you're talking to them so that they can remember you, so that when you actually write an offer on their listing, I know this guy, right? He comes to all the brokers opens. It's really, really important, right? And then when you start closing transactions and they realize they can trust you because you're not a flake and you know what you're doing, you can actually close, they're gonna be even that much more likely to want to pick you or have their seller pick you when you write an offer on clinical properties. It's really, really important that we be in relationship with other agents. That's gonna help us to convert. Because if you keep trying to write offers for clients and every single time the client sees the property, they're gonna get tired of that. And we don't want to lose our clients. We work so hard. So if we can build relationships with other people and that helps maybe to get our offer accepted, then that would be really beneficial, right? So I know that might sound not 100%, but I have a client I just put into escrow this morning after working with them since January. Okay, buyer. It's a direct referral from a past client. And they say they trust me, but they never seem to listen. But there was this listing and I saw it before they did, because you know, it's almost like a race to let them know, hey, this just came on the market before they tell you something you want to market, because there's so much information out there. And I talked to the listing agent. I talked to his wife, because I went there first and saw her and the owner and had a big conversation with them, building rapport, building relationship. Then I talked to him on the phone. There were multiple offers on this property. And we started talking, and it turns out his dad used to be the dean of Modesto Junior College. I went to Modesto Junior College. I lived out there, and that's where I raised my kids. So then he told me he moved to Santa Rosa, which is in the Bay Area, which is where I grew up. So we started talking about that. We were on the phone for 40 minutes talking about all these different things that have nothing to do with this house and everything to do with our pasts and trying to connect. And what happened? He told us, oh, I think we should take this offer from this girl from Modesto. That's what he told me. And he said, I really trust her. I think she knows what she's doing. And my clients got the house. And you know what's great? They also have a condo they have to sell. And now that they're in escrow, they have to hurry up and list it. Even though I told them to list it first, but they didn't listen to me. Okay. So rapport and relationship is the most important thing. And the guy that was a year, I came back to him and never just get ready to get started again. Relationship. We were in my car. This was back when I used to put clients in my car. I don't do that anymore, but anyway, I did. And we were done seeing property, and it was time for him to get out of the car. And he's like, I can't open the door. And he got like panicked. And he's like, are you gonna let me out of the car? And I go, yes, I'm gonna let you out of the car. And he's just like, well, the door is locked. And he was like, panicked. So I flipped the switch, right? And he gets out. So when I called him back, obviously I remembered that that had happened. And so just to put him at ease and to restart the conversation and the relationship, I'm like, I promise you, when we get out there this time, I'm not gonna lock you in the car. And he was like, oh my gosh, that's right, that happened. But it totally broke the ice. So it's like, you've gotta look for a way to build that relationship, even off of weird or silly things like that, because it's a connection that you have with that person now. And then they're gonna remember you, and most likely they're gonna stay with you. So, okay, I'm really not looking at this at all. Okay, this is good. Did you guys read that at all? The 6 connection questions. Connection, relationship. Who are they? Who's your target audience? What do they want or need to do? Where do they want or need to do it? Why do they want or need to do it? When do they want or need to do it? And how do they plan to do it? So most of this is very open-ended, right? To gather information. So you should be having this kind of thing going through your head when you're talking to them to try to extract as much as you can from them. Are you going to get it on the first conversation? No, but you can get a lot, and then you can build from that based on whatever system for contact management you have to be able to put good notes in so you won't have to remember. Because we have to talk to a lot of people to get conversion. So we have to make good notes that we can remember so that we can continue to build that relationship with this person. Yeah? Questions about that? No? Okay. All right, so keep that in mind. Oh, look at that. Cultivate. You can't know or predict when they will come to a decision, but if you're reconnecting with them in a systematic way, you'll have a great chance of being there when they do. That's when you'll be able to close for an appointment. My first sales manager, who I really loved, he's since passed away. He really trained us really well. I mean, from you have to have a real estate car, and the real estate car better be clean, which is actually like really a true thing. But he used to say, you don't have to be good, you just have to be there. And I think when you're a new agent, that's actually really a good thing to hear. Okay, so I want to talk about my first real estate transaction I ever closed in 2001. I was working for a really small mom and pop shop, which was a walk-up. Back then, you know, that's what people did, they just walked up. And so I got this client, it was a husband and wife, they were in the Marine Corps. And I worked with them for 3 months. I didn't think I was ever gonna sell them a house. They wanted the house, and then they wanted to be in the town we lived in, and then they wanted to be in a different town, and then they wanted vacant land, and then they were gonna do something else, and I was like, these people aren't gonna buy anything, I'm just wasting my time, this is terrible. They did, they ended up buying a house in the town where we live, where the little walk-up was and all that. And we closed, and I was very blessed because we did the deal with a really senior agent that knew a lot and was very patient with me because I was new, and he knew that. So it was kind of like, okay, this is what we do next. Okay, this is what we do next, right? Because back then I didn't have a mentor. I just had to try to do it, which was really scary because I knew I didn't know what I was doing. Because you know the licensing exam doesn't prepare you to be a realtor. No. It really doesn't. It doesn't really help much. So that's really, you know, a scary time. But then when we got done, they said, so we just want to let you know we knew you were new. Should I climb under the seat now, or what do you think? And I said, that's terrible. You knew I was new. I go, then why did you use me? And they said, because we knew that you were hungry and we knew that you would do whatever it took to get us a house. Brand new agent, first transaction ever. And by the way, my sister has a house to sell. Here's her number. Give her a call. I told her all about you. Called the sister. Sister owned a mobile home. My first listing was a mobile home. I didn't know any better, and prices were very low back there. So the commission was supposed to be 10% standard back there at that time. But I didn't know, so I put 6. So I got ridiculed for that, and I couldn't go back to the seller because I put it on 6, right? And nobody wanted to show it because, well, then they'd only get 3%. I think it was listed for like 40 grand or something like that, right? Because it was in Riverbank. So, but in any event, I sold them their house. I listed that mobile home. Because I made a mistake on the commission, I double-ended it. So I got the whole 6% myself. I sold another mobile home in another park. I sent out a just listed card to a regular neighborhood around the corner and got a house there. And then after we sold that mobile home, I sold them a house. I moved from a mobile home to a house. So how many transactions was that? And I was brand new. And it started with, we knew you were hungry and you would do it to get us a house. In other words, I would work harder. even if I didn't know everything, I would find out. And I would work harder than somebody that maybe was really established and just had a lot of business. And that's what came out of that. So don't be afraid to be new, but also don't be afraid to work hard, because that's what people are gonna expect. So, you know, and to really hone in on the craft of the relationship piece, because that's gonna be really, really critical. And then the follow-up and having the systematic approach, the CRM that you like, that, you know, you can make good notes and keep at it, and not contact them too frequently. But here's another cool thing. That same sales manager told me, he's like, whenever you go meet with somebody, like if it was for a listing appointment or whatever, he's like, bring some blank note cards in your car and stamps. Okay, and then as soon as you leave their house, while you're still in your car in front of their house, write them a thank you note. Slap a stamp on it, go find a mailbox and put it in there, and they'll get it the next day. Now, mail has obviously changed a little bit, but I think for the most part, within a day or two, they're gonna get it. And it's handwritten. Who does that? Who does that right now in this technology age? And how much does that touch cost? How much is a stamp? How much are blank note cards that you can go to the dollar store and buy? Right? But that's follow-up. That's a part of follow-up. If they said, don't call me for 3 months, but you send them that card after 2 days, but you're not bugging them, that's still like a good thing, right? So you just have to be constantly thinking of how can I stay in touch and how can I let them know that I'm ready to work for them and that I care about their needs. That's gotta be the reason you're doing it, because if not, they'll know it's not the reason. Has anybody been reading Shift? Have you guys been reading that book? Shift by Gary Keller?
I have to get it. I don't have it.
I have read it, but a while ago.
If anybody has Audible, it's on there. Okay, The Millionaire Real Estate Agent is on there, and so is that. You can buy it from Keller Inc. Also, I don't know if you saw Minifer, meaning Minnie and Jennifer, have a library now. Yeah, it says it right on the wall. It's their honorary library system, and I think they've got a couple copies of Shift there, and there's a chair there, and you can sit and read through, make copies of pages and things like that if you don't want to invest in a book right now. But it helps you to kind of keep on track with where your mindset should be right now and what you should be like paying attention to right now. So it says, when asking for the appointment, which format do you think is the most effective? Text message, email, phone call, or in person?
D.
Okay, D, right, in person. What would be the second?
C.
Yeah. Because we want to be in communication with them for real, because a text message, not so much. But video works. So don't forget about that, because that's not an option here. The video works because you're in front of them.
For those video calls, do you always do a personal one towards that actual person, like you say their name in it? Or do you ever just send out a generic?
I mean, you can, like, you could do a slide broadcast, you could do all kinds of different things. I just think if you haven't had any connection with somebody and you want to do just bulk things, you can do that. But if you have had any conversation at all and you want to keep that conversation going, you really need to have it be personal. The more personal it is, they like to hear their own name, you really care, you're really there, that's really going to be important.
Well, I think the other thing too that I've seen is like, especially when you're getting leads from larger platforms like Zillow and Redfin and all that, like they don't think you're like a person.
No, they think
But
they
they
have to
also-
work for the company.
Yeah, and they also don't think that you know the area and that you're local to that place. Like they have no concept of that, and so you have to like explain that to them. So I think that's a really good way to do it. So like, I look a lot of times at like where they're looking at, and I make sure that I say like I'm local to that, you know, city. And I think that that kind of helps because they want somebody who understands where it is too.
Right. Yeah. So this is out of that book. Gary Keller says, in the end, if they can meet and have a good enough reason to meet, they will meet. And if they don't, they won't. And that's okay. you don't really care what their answer ultimately is, because you're not getting people to do anything they don't want to do, because you don't want to do that, like I said earlier, right? You want them to like you at the end. You're just going to ask and respond until they agree that meeting with you makes sense, or it doesn't. Either way, you both win. Right? Because if it isn't really a buyer, you win by knowing that. So you don't have to feel guilty that you're not following up with them enough. It's like, okay, you're not on my radar anymore, next. Because that's what you're gonna have to do anyway, right? Ahas. Who has ahas to share in the last 10 minutes? What do you guys think? Is there anything that you heard today that you didn't already know?
Yeah, price per square foot. That's not anything that I was thinking on the radar. I was just thinking, you know, like comparable homes, like 4-bed, 3-bath sold for 1.6 mil type of thing, instead of being like that next step of knowledge, showing that we have that next step of knowledge.
Yeah. Anything else?
I'm gonna try that video.
Yeah, you definitely should, because I feel like it's so personal. I mean, if I got a text like that, I'd pay attention to it, right? I'm like, well, look at that. Because we want to be different than anybody else, right? I mean, are we going to be different than anybody else? No, but there's going to be such a small percentage of people that are willing to go over and above. You'll be noticed because the cream rises to the top, right? So for those that don't want to try that hard, and then they see somebody that's like making it super easy for them, or they're just doing a bunch of stuff that they didn't expect them to do, they're like, wow, this person's really great, right? So that's what we've got to always be thinking about. She was first.
The fact that we have to go to Burger's Open, it's important to know the layout in different areas. I think that's a great idea, and that's what I'm gonna start doing.
Oh, that's awesome. Very cool. Yes, sir.
Also, wondering if you could tell me real quick that little script you do for the video call.
It really just depends. So it depends on, have you talked to them, or have you never talked to them, or, you know, whatever. I think you should have something to offer, right? Every time you're going to the door or you're calling or whatever, and it could be a registration that you received and you want to speak to that, just not just say, I wanted to call and thank you for registering. You know, it might be, I wanted to call because you registered and find out what's important to you right now, so I can see how we can help you, right? And then just address it to them and make it be about them. Because I'm sure you've heard people say, well, you don't want to have commission breath. I kind of don't like that saying, but I mean, if you just need a check, people will know that. And if you really care and you're genuine, the way that you come through, people will feel that. And you want them to feel that. So, you know, price per square foot is important, especially if you watch, what is it, Rachel? What $1 million listing? But it's also like layout and things like that. Sometimes, like, for instance, I had a listing in lower RPV, and it was a property where, like, in that tract, they had a whole bunch of the same floor plans, right? And so in the middle, separating like a formal living room versus like a regular family room, they had this 2-sided rock fireplace, right? These houses were built in the 50s. Well, this particular seller had removed the entire fireplace. They didn't fix the floor underneath it. There was like wood parquet flooring, and there was this big giant where it was only like subfloor, and then they had a big giant rug over it. And the house was vacant, and we had staged it. So that's how I found out, is that I pulled up their big throw rug, and here's the floor, right? And I'm like, okay. So now I have to disclose to people that this is like this, right? So sometimes just going, well, that was the same floor plan, that was the same square footage in the same neighborhood. It can have such variation. They could have added on something without a permit. They could have removed something. There could be high-end finishes that they remodeled. It could be completely original. And if it's completely original versus something that's completely remodeled recently, like in the last 5 years, I'd say, you know, it becomes different. Even though it looks the same, it's not. And there's gonna be pluses and minuses that an appraiser is gonna go through. And, you know, it's not the same. And so your price per square foot it's gonna change, right? In the same neighborhood with the same floor plan, in the same time frame. Yeah. So, anything else you guys can think of? No more
I
offers?
think like the only other thing too for me is like sometimes when you go, like, if you get like a contact on Zillow, you might only talk to somebody, you know, for a couple minutes before you actually go and meet them. And, you know, so you're trying to still get a lot of those like 6 questions, right? You're trying to get some more of that information from them.
Right.
I think sometimes I'm focused more on that than, you know, kind of like the home that they're looking at, because I'm like, okay, they're probably not gonna buy the first house they see, so I don't know if I'm like building my relationship with them, but I think if I can kind of take a look at the listing and look at some of the pictures and things like that, if I have a chance to go and see it beforehand, great. I mean, sometimes, you know, you have to schedule appointments and all that, it's out, but if it's a vacant thing, you can go by there first and really try to pick out those 3 features. Like we're talking about, I think that would make me feel more comfortable and confident too. It's not just like, hey, there's numbers about this, like, it's also been here and this is what I saw.
Yeah, from, oh, did you see the Lazy Susan to, you know, the pull-out pot drawers to, the bidet. I mean, there's all kinds of things in houses, right, these days. Or did you see it's a totally smart system inside the house for the, you know, the temperature and the lights and whatever. I mean, so, you know, being able to point those things out, you know what happens, even if you point out 3 features and buyer, well, that's not important to me. Well, now you know that's not important to that buyer. What is important to you? That's a really good open-ended question to ask somebody. So you're just always going to be wanting to extract as much information as you can from people, because that's how you're going to be able to help them. Because they don't even realize what they want until they hear themselves say it or until they see it. So anyway, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to spend with me. I've enjoyed this. You're welcome.
Yeah, super.
Good. I'm glad. I'm glad you guys liked it. Have a wonderful Friday and a good weekend.
Hey.
Thank you.
You know, something that I have found out, if they like you, which is you connect with all the comfort things, not related to real estate. Right. They'll put up with you, they'll deal with you, and even though you get poor service, they'll still stick with you.
It's true, because a lot of people want to be loyal.
Yeah.
They want to be loyal to you, so if they like you, yeah, I mean, that's half the battle.
Yeah.
100%, I agree with you. Thanks very much.
Yes. No.
I'm looking to figure out what that sense.
Are you? No, I'm pretty
No, okay.
Yeah.
Us.
They're good. You know, if you know the area, in general, so treat it as there. Yeah, it's okay. I'm so used to it now. listen to this podcast recently. It's from Twice talking about this woman who was just. This woman was just studying Putin her whole life, and she was talking about it. She was like, in his office, he has little statues of Stalin, Lenin, and every time he makes his decision, he just looks up to those statues. He thinks he is the mission that they have.
So I remember like go down at the likes of Stalin.
Oh my God, no. Yeah, it's going, it seems like they could stop soon. Because they already got position in Ukraine. Part is Crimea. So, yeah. So Crimea, they already controlled that, and they didn't have like the land access to Crimea, so they built a bridge from there to Crimea. And now Ukraine's saying that they're gonna start bombing and they're gonna start attacking that area. But Russia is already controlling the right side of Ukraine, southeast of Ukraine.
You just annex it. Right away.
And just the military, because they have so many lives that they were able to, and they invested billions and billions since 20 in the past 8 years, just with so much money. And that there are army areas and people there, they speak language because it was pushed onto them since, to start. So that's how Russia, because of what they've done throughout this whole 100 years now, they've been just instilling the language in different areas, Russian language in different areas. They have made very close to English, which like growing up very little, my friend here, they didn't know any other language that was so Crimea, which is the Turkish language. So later on, everyone had to learn Russian, and with that, they called Russian, the Russian language, the change. So
Like I was saying earlier, that's just a question, but could Russia annex those eastern parts, just say that, well, they're ours now. If you try to attack us, we're gonna nuke you.
yeah, that's what they do.
That's what they're, right, nothing to do with Crimea, but can they?
They just took it, they are controlling the capital.
Do they have the time frame right now to, I guess, how long does it take to annex?
I mean, technically Crimea is still not Russian because it's not accepted in other countries around the world. They do not accept the fact that
But there's,
Russia.
but there's still, the country's still treated as if it is Russian land, and if you attack it, then.
I mean, other countries are not.
Sorry.
Exactly.
I'm
Exactly.
I have a very low understanding of geopolitics, so.
Yeah, no, there's no one there, and I think, what's his name? He's trying to, he's just paranoid, and he thinks that, all other countries that are going into NATO, joining NATO, they think they're threatening him and they're gonna attack him at some point, so. Yeah, he's just paranoid. he thinks the West is evil, that evolution is evil, like everything that's happening in the West right now is evolution, like everything that he doesn't want, it's just, he's just old school and he doesn't want any of that. He just wants power and control. I haven't met them 1 o'clock with Frank, I forgot about that. But hey, it was nice talking to you and I hope we can, we're probably gonna see each other in the future. You go to all these classes?
I don't know.
Yeah, but hey, good job with that two listings. Was the listings or?
Spiders.
Open houses or what's your main source?
Doing cold call.
Call calling, oh, good job. Can you talk about it later?
Sure.
Oh, can I have your contact?
I don't like call.
Right here.
Text you.
See you, thank you.
All right, see ya.
Shredding room, living room style area. So, some of the players, by the way. Yeah, that was a joke, actually. Yeah.
Well, I like that.
Just because no, that's awesome, because one thing we changed, all the windows used to be frosted, and we took him down to kind of open all his brightness and everything. So I think if you're down there, you should do your thing, so, but sometimes when people are like, hey, people can't buy this, so it is awesome. You probably know, Ryan, some of the players over here, that big way, which is people, just runs recently, half America.
Oh, they moved here?
Oh, I know, Tara, I was pretty interested. I know Tara, she's like she newly works for the office.
Yeah, yes, it'll. 15 people.
Yeah,
They actually work out here.
No, they have that office on BC.
Yeah, you see it, yeah, but they're awesome. They're awesome, they're good people. They have a team here, they do really well, professional, that's not on
Oh, okay.
her team.
Yeah, I ended up leaving the Beach City's office when she became that team leader for a while.
Oh, wow,
So
so,
I was
yeah,
there for a long time.
yeah, she was the one, she was.
I don't think very long, but I kind of went, yeah, I remember when she took over when I brought my sort of.
Yeah. Well, she did what was that? Well, yeah, one in the staff.
Y'all pay on?
right, so, send an email to, Chris, I got entered your office. I don't know.
Bye, you too.
See you tomorrow.
Al, go. Good. So, leaving shifts.
Again, I just got back. 200,000 and it's 1.1, so it's going to look at. Now it just came out, so.
Look at you, I was getting carried, you lucky dog.
Yeah,
right.
So
So
much, you just drop pretty when you drink a bunch of water. So. All right, let me go upstairs for now and then I'll go get my car. Always.
Yeah.